U.S. military operations. On Kharg Island are crazy. 9 days, 0 barrels. Not one drop of oil has left that island in over a week. And while the world watches the Strait of Hormuz, the real battle is happening somewhere nobody's looking. Robot boats, underwater drones, satellites tracking every move from orbit. This isn't a blockade anymore. It's something else entirely. And what happens next could decide whether this turns into the next great power war. Stay with us, because by the end of this video, you'll understand exactly what's coming. Welcome back, everyone, to the Siege War. Before we go any further, if you're one of the folks who's been with us for a while now, you know exactly how this works. But if this is your first time here, do yourself a favor, hit that subscribe button. Not because we're asking for a favor, because these stories move fast, and you don't want to be the one hearing about it a week late from someone else. It takes 2 seconds, costs you nothing, and it means you'll be right here with us for whatever comes next. And tell us in the comments, where in the world are you watching this from today? We've got viewers checking in from every corner of the globe, and we'd love to know yours. Now, let's get into it. Kharg Island sits quietly in the northern Persian Gulf. Just 19 square miles of coral and rock. But for Iran, it is everything. 9 out of every 10 barrels of Iranian oil leave the country from this one small island. There is a simple reason for that. Most of Iran's coastline is too shallow for large tankers to dock. Kharg Island is different. It has the deep water that massive oil tankers need. Without it, Iran has almost no way to sell its oil to the world. And right now, that island has gone silent. For 9 straight days, not a single barrel of oil has left Kharg Island. 0. All 3 loading points at the island have sat completely empty since the end of July. No ships coming in, no oil going out, no money flowing into Iran's government. This did not happen by accident. The United States Navy has been enforcing a naval blockade in the waters around Iran. American destroyers, fighter jets, and advanced drones have all been part of keeping this pressure in place. A carrier strike group has been turning away ships trying to slip through. Sailors have now been at sea for 237 days straight, holding this line without pause. This blockade is not loud. It is not dramatic on the surface. But it is systematically cutting off the money that keeps Iran's government running. And Iran has finally responded. Just 1 day ago, Iran's Supreme National Security Council issued a list of 6 conditions before it will even consider reopening the Strait of Hormuz. 9 days of silence, 6 demands in return, and a region now watching closely to see what happens next. Something strange happened this week. Iran's foreign minister told the world that talks with Oman were approaching their final stages, a sign of progress, a sign that diplomacy might actually be working. But almost at the same time, Iran's Supreme National Security Council published something very different. A list of 6 hard conditions. Conditions that read less like an opening offer and more like a final position. So which one is true? Is Iran close to a deal, or is Iran digging in? Analysts say the answer is both, and that is exactly what makes this moment so important to understand. Here is the distinction most people are missing. Iran is not saying there are no talks happening at all. Iran is saying it is not talking directly to the United States, even though American officials have said they are directly involved in these negotiations behind the scenes. 2 different messages aimed at 2 different audiences. One message for Iran's own population to show strength and defiance. Another message, quieter, for the negotiating table, where reality may look very different. Now look at the numbers, because the numbers tell their own story. As of this week, only 16 vessels remain anchored near Kharg Island. That is the lowest count seen in months. 16 ships waiting with nowhere to go. U.S. Central Command has been tracking the wider picture. 53 commercial vessels redirected away from the area. 2 vessels disabled, 2 more boarded and inspected. But here's the detail almost nobody reports. More than 30 ships have been allowed straight through carrying humanitarian aid. This is not a total complete shutdown of the region. It is something more precise. A targeted pressure campaign built to stop oil exports specifically, while still allowing food, medicine, and aid to move. That distinction matters. It shows control. It shows this is not chaos. It is calculation. But not everyone in the region is staying calm. On Saturday, a missile struck a tanker belonging to the Abu Dhabi National Oil Company inside the Strait. The United Arab Emirates did not respond with careful diplomatic language. Their foreign ministry called it exactly what it looked like, an act of piracy. That single sentence marks a shift. For months, Gulf states surrounding Iran have tried to stay neutral, avoiding direct blame, choosing their words carefully. Now, one of the most economically powerful nations in the Gulf has stopped choosing careful words. They have named the problem directly. This matters because the Gulf states have influence. They have relationships with Iran that go back decades. When they shift their language from cautious to accusing, it tells the world something about how serious the situation has become. So here is where things stand. Iran is publicly demanding a full American withdrawal. an end to sanctions, and billions in reparations. At the same time, Iran is reportedly engaged in real negotiations behind closed doors. The blockade continues to squeeze oil exports to almost nothing. Humanitarian aid still moves freely, showing this is a controlled operation, not blind chaos. And one of the Gulf's most important allies has just called Iran's actions an act of piracy out loud for the world to hear. Every piece of this puzzle is moving at once. Diplomacy and confrontation happening side by side. Iran trying to hold two positions that do not easily fit together. The question now is how long that balancing act can continue. Because pressure like this does not stay quiet forever. Something typically has to give. And whatever gives first may determine what happens next in the Gulf. Picture this. A boat, 24 feet long, moving through open water at more than 35 knots. No captain, no crew, nobody on board at all. This is the Corsair, and it just became one of the most important machines in the Gulf. On the 8th of June, an Army Apache helicopter went down in the water off the coast of Oman. 2 lives were in danger. Help did not come from a rescue helicopter. It came from this unmanned boat. Within about 2 hours, both aviators were pulled from the water alive and stable. Analysts believe this marks the first personnel recovery in history carried out by an autonomous vessel. Not a person, a machine. The specs explain why it performed so well. 24 feet long, a payload capacity of 1,000 pounds, a range of more than 1,000 nautical miles. By December of last year, the U.S. Navy had already signed a production contract worth close to $400 million for more of these boats. By this past May, more than 300 had reportedly been built. Earlier this year, 8 of these vessels ran a multi-day mission more than 70 nautical miles offshore. They logged over 4,500 nautical miles. They conducted harbor patrols, long-range surveillance, and loiter missions. And here's the detail that stands out most. Even when communications were cut off, even when GPS signals were jammed, the boats kept working. They kept moving. They kept completing their mission. That level of independence points to one thing: artificial intelligence, guiding decisions, without a human hand on the controls. But the surface of the water is only part of the story. Beneath it, something else may already be moving. It is called the lamprey, named after a fish that attaches itself to sharks and rides along unnoticed. This underwater vehicle works in a similar way. It has suction anchors built into its frame. It can swim beneath a submarine or a warship and attach itself directly to the hull. Once attached, it uses small turbines to generate its own power from the movement of water passing by. Inside, it carries a payload bay large enough to hold torpedoes, decoys, or equipment that can be released onto the ocean floor. It can even launch small drones into the air from the surface. The lamprey was revealed publicly in February of this year. It was built entirely with private funding, completed in about 14 months. As of now, there is no confirmed military contract, no confirmed combat deployment. It remains officially a prototype still being tested, but its existence alone changes how people think about undersea warfare in this region. And the surveillance does not stop at the water's surface either. It now extends into orbit. Traditionally, tracking enemy aircraft required large surveillance planes, circling for hours at a time, completely exposed to attack. That approach is now considered outdated and risky. In its place, a new program is being built: satellites, designed specifically to track aircraft and missile threats from space. A contract worth roughly $650 million has already been awarded to build this network. The goal is constant surveillance over regions where traditional aircraft cannot safely operate. Put all of this together, and a clear pattern begins to form. Unmanned boats on the surface, autonomous vehicles below the water, satellites watching from above. 3 different systems, operating in 3 different environments, all sharing one purpose: applying pressure without placing a single service member directly in harm's way. And when these systems are considered together with what is happening at Kharg Island, one question becomes impossible to ignore. Are these tools simply monitoring the region, or are they quietly preparing for something much larger? Here's part 4, 750 words. Part 4, the calculation. Now comes the question everyone keeps asking. Will the United States actually move to take Kharg Island by force, or is the current strategy enough on its own? To answer that, the situation must be weighed carefully, piece by piece. Start with what a physical takeover would actually require. Kharg Island may only cover 19 square miles, but Iran would not simply hand it over without a fight. Ground forces would need to be moved in. Those forces would need protection, supply lines, and constant air cover. Iran has spent years preparing defenses around its most valuable piece of land, expecting exactly this kind of scenario. That means any physical invasion carries real risk to human life, something no military planner takes lightly. Now compare that to the strategy already in motion. 9 days without a single barrel of oil leaving Kharg Island. That happened without a single American boot on the ground, no invasion, no occupation, just ships, aircraft, and now autonomous systems, applying steady pressure from a distance. The blockade alone has already done what an invasion would attempt to do. cut off Iran's main source of income. This is the core of the strategic debate playing out right now among analysts and military planners. Why risk lives to physically seize an island when the same economic result can be achieved by simply maintaining the blockade? Unmanned boats can patrol the waters continuously. Undersea vehicles can monitor activity without ever surfacing. Satellites can track every ship movement from orbit, day and night, without pause. Together, these systems allow the pressure to continue indefinitely, without exposing service members to the kind of danger a ground invasion would require. This appears to be the direction military planning is currently leaning, not occupation, containment. But containment only works if Iran's government eventually reaches a breaking point. And that raises the real question underneath all of this: how long can Iran's economy survive without its main export? Oil money does not just fund the government, it funds the military. It funds regional influence operations. It funds the systems that keep Iran's leadership in power. Every day the blockade continues, that funding shrinks further. 9 days has already been enough to force Iran's Supreme National Security Council to respond publicly with formal demands. That alone shows the pressure is working faster than many expected. But 6 demands delivered through official channels also show something else. Iran is not collapsing quietly. It is pushing back, trying to reshape the narrative, trying to appear strong even while its main revenue source sits frozen. This is the balancing act analysts are watching closely. If the blockade continues for weeks instead of days, the pressure on Iran's economy will only deepen. At some point, that pressure could force real concessions at the negotiating table, or it could push Iran toward a more dangerous response. Similar to the missile strike near the UAE tanker just days ago, that single incident already shows Iran is willing to escalate, even while economically weakened, which means the situation could move in 2 very different directions. A slow economic surrender as Iran's government runs out of options, or a sudden escalation as Iran searches for leverage it no longer has through oil exports alone. Military planners appear to be preparing for both outcomes at once. The autonomous systems patrolling the waters and skies are not simply monitoring tools. They are flexible instruments, capable of shifting from surveillance to direct action if the situation demands it, without requiring a full military buildup first. That flexibility may be the most important detail in this entire situation. It means the United States does not need to choose between invasion and inaction. It can maintain pressure, adjust in real time, and respond to whatever Iran does next, without committing to a single fixed plan. For now, the blockade holds. Kharg Island's berths remain empty. Iran's demands remain on the table, unanswered. And the machines patrolling the water, the sky, and the space above continue their quiet, constant watch. What happens next depends entirely on which side runs out of patience first.